Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the DCL Duo podcast and vlog. We're live on video tonight, and we're going to be doing some news and commentary. And so let me welcome in my regular co-host, Sam. Hey, Sam.
Hey, I'm fist bumping to the countdown.
You're like Zemo.
I'm Zemo fist bumping. I love the Zemo fist bumping. Yeah.
Sam's on a Plus Platoon podcast now that does Disney Plus stuff, and she's obsessed with Zemo from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So we're
totally
doing like this all night.
Fist bumping like Zemo in the club.
All right. Well, let's bring in our favorite news and commentary guest co-host, Adrian. Welcome, Adrian.
Hi.
Hey.
Adrian.
Hey, guys.
It's the DCL Duo +1 right here.
+1.
Yeah, we love it. We love having you on to talk about news, Adrian. You have great perspective and great, varied Disney knowledge.
Thank you.
Well, there's a lot of great cruising news this past week or two, and so we're going to dive into a bunch of topics. We'll try to rapid fire a few of them, or else we'll be here all night.
We tend to run over on that.
We do. And this is live, so no editing here.
I got a list of topics for us to dive into. I think we got to start, though, with UK staycations. So not news that Disney announced UK staycations. What is news is that they came out and announced the specific protocols they're going to be following for those staycations. And I want to pull them up so that I have them accurate. But in the Know Before You Go on Disney's website, we know that they are doing COVID-19 vaccinations. So all those over 18 have to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated to sail. They're doing COVID-19 tests for guests under the age of 18 before leaving home, and then another test at the terminal. They're going to be doing multiple health screenings during the cruise. They're going to be practicing physical distancing, wear face coverings. They want you to use the app on board, and obviously online check-in. None of that stuff is really new. So
virtual queues, I'm sure, on board.
Yeah. Anything surprising here other than that? I feel like this is like the ultimate belt and suspenders approach, or for our friends in the UK, I have learned that some of that terminology is a little too racy. So it's belt and braces there. And so it feels like a belt and braces approach to me over in the UK. What do you think, Adrian?
I think that they're priming themselves. I think that they're setting the good example because they know the world is watching this. And Disney people alike are looking for this to be the example. How's it going to go? How's it going to come back? Is everybody going to be healthy? Is it going in the positive direction that they're going to feel comfortable when it comes back here to go on a ship? And I think they're doing it right. I think you have to do it harsh and now and this way, and later we can work it out a little bit less and a little bit less. Like Disney has loosened the reins a little. So I think it will change. But they need to come on strong and say, this is how we're doing it, because if you want to sail, this is just what it is.
I totally agree. I think they're the conservative approach, start with more precautions versus less, and then kind of, pull them back little by little as they prove that, cruising is not a super spreader event. Right. That's what they need to prove, because that's what happened back in March of 2020 and even into early April when there were a couple of cruise ships that couldn't get docked because of COVID on board. And so they need to be able to prove that they can cruise safely without super spreader events. And they also need to kind of, I think, test the waters, as they say. But, they need to test out new protocols and kind of figure out how things are going to look like shows and character meet and greets and all kind of like all the things they've done in the parks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised by any of these protocols by any means. I'm what I'm actually curious about, and I don't know that they've said a ton, is sort of what is actually going to be the experience on board, right? They've talked about the health and safety protocols, but what's going to be open, what's going to be closed, what's going to be limited capacity, what are shows going to look like, dining, all of that stuff. So if you're out there watching and you have booked a UK staycation, I said this on our last podcast too, we want to hear from you after you sail so we can hear about what it was like on board, because I think these UK protocols are precursor to what we're going to see in the US when cruising returns, quite frankly. So speaking of which, we can transition over to the fact that the CDC this week has also now finally come out with a set of protocols for the cruise lines to follow to get back to sailing, to the point that folks are reporting that it looks like cruises could be back in about a month and a half, which is, I think, 180-degree turn from where we thought things were going to head with the CDC. What they have said this week is that ships can bypass the required simulated test cruises, which were a precursor to them restarting cruising, by having 95% of paying passengers on board fully vaccinated. I think the paying thing is kind of interested, but okay. 95% of passengers on board fully vaccinated, 98% of crew. The CDC is going to update its testing and quarantine guidance. They're saying, for example, that folks who've been vaccinated would be able to take a PCR test at the port as opposed to doing something before they leave home. They've clarified that before, the guidance was that would have to enter into one-to-one agreements with the ports, which the cruise lines were saying that's going to be really difficult for us to do, and it's a lot of work. And they've now said they can enter into multi-port agreements. So a lot of good stuff here that I think the cruise lines were looking for. So Sam, what do you think about the CDC guidance that's come out?
Well, I think it's great that we finally have heard something, right? I mean, I think there's a little confusion out there on the CDC guidance as to whether or not children who can't be vaccinated yet. I think that's the one piece of information that I've been reading on different blogs and articles and in Facebook groups, and I'm seeing conflicting information about whether or not the 95% is for all passengers, or if it's just for those 18 and older, or even 16 and older, right? Because in the US right now, only 16 and older can get vaccinated. There are no vaccinations approved for anyone under 16. So Disney and Royal Caribbean and a few of the, even Carnival, a lot of these cruise lines cater to family audiences. We're not talking about princess or celebrity that probably could survive with just adults. But these other cruise lines that are family oriented, really, I mean, I know people who sail without kids. We've sailed without our son. But
it's glorious.
It is amazing.
It's underrated.
I love my son, but it's glorious.
Yeah, but it is a fact that most of the people who are sailing on Disney and Royal and most of the other lines, more than half of the ship has children with them, or at least children under the age of 16. So I don't see how how anybody can sail until they clarify that. And then there's the other piece of information that is still really unclear, which is Governor DeSantis from Florida has said that by his decree, no businesses are allowed to require vaccinations. And he has previously said that cruise lines are not exempt from that. Now, he has not yet commented on the CDC's new guidance, but I don't think DeSantis wants to give up all the cruise revenue for the entire state of Florida, because guess what? That's where like 90% of cruises sail out of in the United States. So I don't think he wants to lose them to Galveston and New Orleans and New York and, other states that might be willing to allow it. That certainly would be more willing to allow vaccination requirements so that they could get some of those port fees and some tourist dollars. What do you think, Adrian?
I think that you're 1,000% right. I think that he's going to have to stop and take a beat and just think about what he's saying, because you can't have it. You can't have it both ways with this particular situation. You cannot have it both ways, because then you're going to get passengers who don't believe in COVID showing up at the terminal and demanding to get on the ship. And they'll say, well, the governor said that I didn't need that. And now you have the CDC saying one thing, the governor saying another. It can't happen. It can't be both ways. It's going to have to be clear and concise, and it's going to have to be the way the CDC wants it. And honestly, who wouldn't want that? Why wouldn't you want to be on a ship where you're feeling a lot more comfortable than the alternative? And as far as kids, listen, I told you my youngest is 15. We're waiting to see what happens with bated breath, to see if they drop the age for the vaccinations. But you're right. Cruising with children is going to be the challenge. That's really the biggest challenge the cruise industry is going to face on all those kid areas, and how to maintain and what to do, and distancing in the clubs that are they're famous for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's interesting is, and I wonder if we'll see this kind of hop the pond, so to speak. In the UK, they're saying
Mm-hmm.
everyone 18 and over. I think in the US, it'd be 16 and over needs to be
Mm-hmm.
vaccinated with some wiggle room on the percentages, right? But over in the UK, they're saying anyone under, just let's do testing. Like let's do the testing regime.
Right.
That, frankly, the testing regime is what they implemented over in Asia when they restarted cruising, right? Before vaccines were really deployed, they basically said we'll do testing before, testing again at the port. If
Mm-hmm.
you fail a test, test again. Testing practically every day on board. For some.
Right.
And so like I think there's something to, if 95% of the adult population on board is coming in vaccinated, 98% of the crew is vaccinated, testing for kids might get you over the hurdle. I don't know. I don't know. It will be interesting to see what happens.
No, and I agree, because I think it will ultimately lead to the herd immunity on the ship.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
but you need the vaccinations, and he has to clear that up. He has to. And
Mhm.
he's not, like Sam said, there is no way he's going to want to lose that revenue from, what is it? There's 4 ports, I think, in Florida. You're not
Yeah.
going to lose the revenue from those 4 ports. It's the
Yeah.
hotels. It's so much industry. You're not.
Totally. And the businesses will rail against him and make sure he gets voted out if he doesn't. I mean, that's the other part, right? Like politically, it would be political suicide for him to not budge on that for cruise line industry specifically. I mean,
Yes.
he can stick his, foot in the sand, or, whatever it is, for other industries, but not for cruising, because it's really outside of his control. It's really something that the federal government regulates, not the
Yeah.
states. So that'll be interesting to see. Just for our listeners, the 98 and the 95 percentages, people may be asking, well, why is it not 100%? Well, there are people who are, have certain kinds of allergies or certain kind of immunocompromised conditions who actually can't get vaccinated. And so the whole idea behind herd immunity is most of us get vaccinated for the people who really actually can't. So they may allow for some religious exemptions as well. That's unclear, but most likely I would imagine that 5% or that 2% will be for people who, for whatever reason, can't get vaccinated.
Well,
Right.
to be clear, the CDC is saying minimum. That's the
Right.
floor.
Right.
There's nothing to
Right.
prevent Disney under its current labor model from saying 100% of the crew is going to be vaccinated, and we're just
Right.
not going to allow people to sail unless they're vaccinated. Like there's no,
True.
there's no necessary right I have to get on board a cruise ship.
Right.
So
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they make exceptions for like Make-A-Wish kids
Medical.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Medical.
but that's a different thing. And like we said, as long as it's the herd immunity, where it's the percentages baseline of what we're talking about, I think it will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, Disney didn't make medical exceptions for the masking requirement.
That's true. They didn't at the parks.
In
You're
parks,
right. That's true.
And
Yeah,
at the
but-
time, it was sort of they said, look, if you have a medical condition that makes it difficult for you to wear a mask, might not be the best idea for you to be coming into our parks in the middle of COVID. So,
And
We'll see, I guess. Yeah.
but I think that was the right call. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And
I
it
agree.
was very clear in all the guidelines before you go, that if you cannot wear a mask, do not come to the park.
Mm-hmm.
It was stated in every which way. So the few people that unfortunately it wasn't pleasant that happened, and they brought their kids and whatever, it's horrible. But at the end of the day, it was there. It was written. It was concise.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with the position they took. I'm just saying, and that's
No,
their
I
position
agree.
in the parks. It couldn't have been their position on the cruise line too. So,
Good.
Well, that's all going to hinge right with the governor, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to set. The tone has to be for the cruises. You want to sail. The CDC said, being in an open park is a little different than being on a cruise ship,
Right.
and the proximity of people, and it's not all outdoors. We know that, so you're going to have to pick and choose your battle with it.
Well, let's speaking of decisions out of the Florida government,
It's a lot to talk about out of the Florida
and
government.
180-degree turns. Couple the two things together tonight. So earlier this week, it was reported. So the Florida legislature had been considering a bill. So I think it was Senate Bill 426 or House Bill 426. It was essentially aimed at overturning the referendum in Key West. Key West had voted by referendum earlier this year to ban all essentially large cruise ships from porting in Key West. The impact of that was to take something like 200 plus port calls down to 8 or something like that.
Wow.
Actually, it
Right.
had to be more than 200. I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but lots of port calls were taken down to 8. Cruise, no ships over, I think 100 passengers were going to be allowed to port in Key West, something of that nature.
So basically, no cruise ships.
No, it's those smaller, like the river boat cruise sizes, those size ships.
And the stated purpose was that they really wanted to, one, environmental protection of the reef down there, and two, it's been sort of reported or speculated that they were looking to shift the clientele that was visiting Key West and sort of move away from these large cruise ships that dump a ton of people into Key West and move toward more of an upscale clientele. I heard someone describe it to me earlier this week as, they wanted to become the Hamptons or the Martha's Vineyard.
Or the St. Bart's or something. Yeah.
How sweet.
Mega yachts, not cruise ships. Great in theory. The Florida legislature has been considering and debating a bill, Senate Bill 426, and it was essentially going to exercise preemption over the ports and say, you don't get to decide the size and nature of the commercial traffic coming through the ports. The bill sponsor had a really interesting scenario where he said, if we allow this referendum to proceed, what if folks in Jacksonville say, I don't like fossil fuels, so I don't want to import anything that burns fossil fuels into the port. So now we're shutting down all importation of cars into the port of Jacksonville. So that was their rationale for the bill. But earlier this week, it was reported that bill was dead on arrival. The bill sponsor was yanking support. They were going to kill the bill. And then a day later,
turned it around.
Language got attached as an amendment to another bill that passed the House and the Senate. It is now waiting for Governor DeSantis to sign it. And it would override the Key West vote down there and allow cruise ship traffic back into the port of Key West. So, Adrian, what do you think? Are you excited to be heading back to Key West, or are you upset that they overrode the will of the people down there?
Honestly, it's their home, and I understand. I would be honestly more concerned about the environmental impact. Is there something more substantial that's happening environmentally that maybe we didn't know? If that's the case, then yeah, I agree with that. It should be not happening environmentally, but what a turnaround, right?
Crazy.
There's something going on there. And,
well, they did report report somebody made a rather large campaign donation to Governor DeSantis.
No way.
I think it was the not the tugboats, but the port. What were they called? The Harbor Pilots. The Harbor Pilots Association made a rather large last minute donation.
I'm shocked, but look, there's both sides to the story. There's both sides with it. I think that Key West is very small. If you've ever been there, it is not like a huge area. So when cruise ships a certain size come, it is overwhelming. It is. I'm mixed about that one. I really am. Environmentally and ship-wise, I see the ship's point of view, that it's an extra port and this and that. I don't know. I'm kind of fudgy on it.
Yeah.
The only thing politically that I looked at and gave me concern, one was I had heard reported that, the referendum is being voted on by the residents of Key West, but the bulk of the people who actually have jobs in Key West that relate to cruise lines don't live within the boundaries.
Right. They can't afford to live in. Yeah.
And so like it did feel to me a little
no, and that I agree with. No, that I agree with.
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. And I agree with the fact that this is ridiculous about why it switched over and how it happened. Like I said, I'm not a specialist in environmental things. That was my biggest concern. But are they just using it as an excuse?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, and so I think somebody pointed out to me that there wasn't an environmental impact study. I'm sure there's been many, right? I want to say this. I'm sure there've been many out there. The other thing that was really kind of odd to me as well is I'm sure the public port down there's a private port and a public port. I'm sure the public port has taken a ton of state money for port improvements over the years.
Right.
And now the pushback is, the state's coming in and saying we can't do this and overriding the will of the people. It's like you are willing to take the money from the state, but you're not willing to accept the direction from the state.
Yeah.
So like you can't kind of have it both ways. So I am sympathetic to the environmental argument if it's in fact.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying is that if it's that, then yes, I am all for whatever is decided. But like you said, is there proof to back that up? And if there is, then okay. But if there's not, then
yeah. I think I'm skeptical that their motives were environmental. I think it's all, political, and, in the end, for Florida, it's all about the economy, stupid, right? I mean, if you
that's not fair for just Florida. I think every
for every state. No, that's what I mean. But for the reason the state of Florida, the Florida legislature is overturning the will of the, people of Key West is because there is big, tax revenue, and there are jobs that are, sustained by that port. Like Brian was saying, the folks who work at the port of Key West don't live in Key West. They can't afford to live in Key West. Key West is she expensive. All of the people who work in the port and work at the shops and the restaurants and the, and the harbor pilots and all of the sort of industries around, they all live further out. Exactly. And so, those folks will lose, a lot of those folks would lose their jobs or probably, cut back on hours. And, a lot of the restaurants will be probably, killed. A lot of the tourist shops will be killed.
And
sure, I'm sure there are.
Yeah, except that Key West is saying we're doing just fine. Now, I find that argument just a tad specious for the moment, because you're doing just fine in a setting when people can't really travel to too many places.
Right. People can't go to the Caribbean, so they're driving to Key West.
I will be interested in Key West as a case study 2 years out. 3 years out.
Yeah.
What's your revenue look like? The problem is now we won't get it as a case study because the legislature has overturned it. But it would have been interesting to see. And I think there are other ports out there that might look to them, because I know Grand Cayman said, we want to go the same route. We've been doing great ever since the cruise lines left. And so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think Key West is the last we're going to hear of this. And it may not even be the last we hear of it in Key West. It'll just be interesting to see what the
it will keep going. It will go. It will go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's shift over to actual Disney specific news, which we talked about the UK staycations up front, which is obviously Disney Cruise Line specific, but let's shift over to a couple of Disney Cruise Line specific topics. We're going to save the biggest for last, the elephant in the room that we can't avoid talking about, which all of you out there probably know what I'm mentioning. And so I'm not going to start down that path just yet, but before we head there, Disney did announce this week, Disney Cruise Line did announce this past week that they are making some changes to Palo and Remy. Unsurprisingly, there is a price change to, I think, just Palo. If I read the announcement correctly, the Palo price is going from $40 to $45, which at first blush I was like, oh, $5 whole. But that is a more than 10% increase cost of a meal at Palo, just to put it in perspective. But $40 to $45. And now they are also going to be offering a prefix and an a la carte menu at both restaurants. So previously, Remy was entirely prefix. You could
shift around what you ordered, but there was one price, and it was kind of 2 set menus, and you could kind of shift around stuff if you wanted.
For our listeners and viewers out there, Remy there's an American menu and a French menu, and basically you ordered one or the other, and then they just started coursing you through that menu.
Yeah. There were a la carte items that were always at the bottom that you could sub in, but most people, because everything was sort of an all-inclusive meal, you could sub in. You couldn't do just 3 courses though.
There were upcharges. They're not it's not a la carte in that you could choose an appetizer, a main, and a dessert. You're going to have a 7-course meal, and there were things that you could add caviar service to your meal. You could add Wagyu beef to your meal if that's what you wanted. Okay, so but now they're adding a la carte to Remy. On the Palo side, which was very much a la carte. Now it was all included for the charge. You could pick whatever you wanted off the menu. Now they're going to do an a la carte menu that is priced out, and a prefix menu. So you can have a set meal at Palo, or you can order off the menu. Palo is going up from 40 to 45. Remy is still at 125, and they announced that no changes to brunch. Thank God.
But both
if they mess around with that Palo brunch, people are going to burn that place to the ground.
But both a la carte menus, you're going to have to pay per dish. That's the That's one thing that didn't exist before. While Palo before, you ordered off a menu, you ordered a la carte, you still had a fixed price, so you could order as much or as little as you wanted for that one price for dinner. Now there's going to be a set price fix menu, and then there's going to be a la carte items. So it might be that your favorite dish is only on the a la carte menu and not on the price fixed menu, and I'm not happy about that. Well, and Craig says, "Hi, Adrian." Hi, Craig.
So that's my prediction is that, so we have, for viewers out there, we live in the Seattle area. They have restaurant week. And if you live in a major city, a lot
New
of times
York
they do this.
too. New York too.
Restaurant
Long
week.
Island, New York.
Yep. To get you into a restaurant, it's like pay $35. Sometimes 25 for 25, 35 for 35. It's like 35 restaurants, $35 for dinner, which is unheard of at some of these places. But you go in to this restaurant that's really known for whatever kind of food. And you sit down and you look at the 35 for 35 menu and you're like, that thing that everyone says you have to have here isn't on the menu.
Right.
Well, I better order it off the menu and pay that price.
And it's only like a 3-course menu, right? When you at the ones that we're talking about for restaurant week, it's typically like a 2-course or a 3-course menu. And so that's what we have yet to see. And that's the thing that's going to be interesting for us to know is like, I imagine Remy will still be the 7, like a 7-course menu.
Here's the hypothetical.
I want to know about Paulo.
Grand Marnier souffle may not be the dessert option on the prefix menu.
On Paulo, yeah, that would be so the souffles at Paulo are widely known as their sort of signature desserts. You can get either the Grand Marnier or the chocolate. Is that right?
It was the chocolate. I think it was like the flourless, right?
Yeah. And so they have a couple of them, and you have to order them at the beginning of your meal. So there are certain things that may not be on there. We'll see.
Let's get Adrian. So Adrian, you still going to eat at Paulo and Remy? I mean, I think the value prop is still there.
There's no deterring that one. So they could have made it 50 and I'd still go there.
Same.
I know that sounds horrible. Maybe, and listen, I get what you're saying. It's an increase, but they've never increased it since the beginning, and they know what they have. End of story. It's good food. Do I love the idea of the price fix part? Not the price fix, the a la carte part. Not really, but I'm sure I'll muddle through. With the restaurant with no children.
It does shift Paulo because Paulo, I feel like, was like main dining in that you could choose if you wanted everything on the menu, they were going to bring it to you.
They were going to bring it.
And it's not that anymore because you either choose their menu or you order everything that you want off the menu and you pay for it. Now, on the one hand, I think that's a great option from the standpoint of like people not wasting a bunch of food, just trying things, right? You really got to want it and eat it. You're not just going to, what we love to do, order for the table.
We order one extra for the table.
Yeah. So, but that to me is a bigger shift than adding the a la carte menu to Remy, because Remy is about the prefix experience.
Right.
And so you can still have that. But Paulo was kind of like the unlimited menu option on board. And that's now completely gone. So that feels like a bigger change to me, especially in the face of a price increase.
But it's really not. I don't. Those who are dedicated to eat there and want it will go. Exactly. And I think that it's the standard, like the gold standard restaurant of the ship, because not everybody can do Remy, because that is a more expensive option.
Yeah.
And a more unique type of food, and a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more risk taking with your food and open. Exactly. You can't really be too picky of an eater, or too particular of an eater, and go to Remy and really have an enjoyable experience. When people ask us like, "Oh, should I go to Remy or go to Paulo?" and we ask like, well, what do you normally like to eat? And are you a foodie, or like what, that's, I feel like you have to gauge. Are you
open to try different things? Craig, who's listening, will attest to the fact that when he told me the menu of Remy, I was like, yeah, no. It's not, it's just, and to others, it's great. I'm just not an open person with certain foods. So for me, it wasn't the option.
Yep. No, I agree. I think I do think, though, one of the things they're probably aiming for with the Remy a la carte menu is to get some folks in to try it who might not otherwise try it. I think that's what they do with the dessert service at Remy, because there are, I think, a lot more people who think, oh, the dessert's not going to be that weird or, adventurous, so I can go do dessert. I'm not really so sure how much that's going to work. I think that most people... I think most people who go already go, and most people who don't go are not going to go just for like an appetizer or something like that. Right. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what the market bears.
Yeah, and I've done 180 degrees, and I actually thought that was their stated goal, was to kind of be more inclusive of people and get them into Remy if they want to have the experience, because price was the barrier. But I think the bigger barrier to Remy is the food, not the price. If that makes sense. Like,
I agree.
That's what we're
saying. If you're an
yeah.
adventurous eater, like Remy is actually a value deal for people who like fine dining. Like,
and for what you're getting.
Yeah, for $125 a head, that is actually a deal in my mind.
It is.
And so I'm not sure that people will suddenly sit down and be like, "Oh, I'm okay trying foams now because I'm paying." No,
I don't. So, I don't think it's that. I just think it's more of like, I think the idea being like, oh, it's, if I only have an appetizer there, I'm only going to pay $20 a person instead of $125 a person. Right. So I might be willing to try it for an appetizer and a drink, whereas I'm not willing to commit the
Are you going to
$125?
Are you going to cart a sport coat and a tie on board to have an appetizer? And
I don't know. I don't think so either, but I don't know.
And that's the other thing, the dress code of Remy, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
But you might do it for Enchanté.
Well, okay. So speaking of that, the elephant in the room has made itself known. So we're going to shift. We should shift gears over and save some time for this discussion. So April 29th. Christmas morning for DCL fans. We had the announcement of all of the details of the Wish. We had a special live episode with the DCL podcast about all of those details. It was a fabulous time. We don't have 90 minutes tonight to rehash that discussion.
Yeah, so we'll focus on Adrian instead of on us.
We're going to focus on Adrian's reactions. Sam and I have a main show coming out this week also about the Wish with a special guest. And so you're going to get, you're going to wish we stopped talking about the Wish by the time we're done talking about it. But let's get Adrian's reactions tonight. I'm going to kind of roll through in the same way they rolled through the announcement. So, Adrian, let's start with pool deck. That's where they started with the pool deck, which I thought was a really interesting place to start that discussion.
Not where I thought they were going to go with that.
Yeah,
I think it was a risky place for them to start.
I
honestly,
agree.
Yeah. So, what'd you think of the pool deck announcement? Aqua Mouse, this hero zone. What'd you think?
There are no words. Right? For this ship is the pinnacle of everything that they have probably been working for. And it will be the shining star of the cruise line. I can't imagine anything better. I mean, goodbye to the aqueduct, right? The aqueduct. This is like, because now there's a story in the ride and the whole Marvel thing. I don't even know where to start with the conversation on how many things there are and where my brain exploded with each time. What was it, Ashley?
Yep.
Yes. Cruise director Ashley.
Every time Ashley popped somewhere else, I was like, oh.
And it's not over. It's not.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
no, there's more coming.
They didn't tell us.
Yeah. There is a lot to the announcement. On the pool deck side,
We'd have to break it down.
Yeah, on the pool deck side, a couple pros I saw, and some speculation I've seen since. One, it looked like multiple small pools kind of tiered out, which I think I don't know if that works or doesn't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The Aqua Mouse you referred to, which is their answer to roller coaster at sea, is thrill experience at sea that's a water ride and has a story and theming. It feels like kind of the merger of the Aqueduct and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Hero Zone, I actually think, is a big announcement. It's been described as this multi-purpose arena, which I continue to believe means enclosed multi-purpose space. People have argued with me about it, and
Brian, I'm with you. Brian, I think you're 100% right. I agree. I think it's going to be an enclosed, because when I hear arena, I don't think open space at all like that. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. So,
I like the idea of the separate pools, honestly. Yeah. I've sat where the pool is small and everybody's lined up with the kids and it's tight. I like the idea of space, the little bit of spatial spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it too. I think it's a great idea.
I think the pool is going to be unbelievable.
Well,
and
we have
adult pool, forget it.
Oh my goodness, right?
The infinity edge off the back. I was like,
yeah. Well,
that looks incredible.
Concierge finally gets their own pool space, which they've wanted forever. So
I think
Concierge gets a pool.
You
Adults
saw my
gets a
thumbs
pool.
down.
Well, but it's good. It's good for.
No,
I mean,
it's good.
for
It's
them.
good. It is. To be fair, we Concierge is a little too rich for our pocketbook, but
and for a lot of people, but
and
a
for
lot
most
of
people,
let's be real. I mean,
Yeah.
we could dive into that and have a whole 10-hour conversation too. That it's not an inexpensive cruise. So to do the Concierge,
well,
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Let's go over there for a second. We'll go out of order for a second because other big announcement was around staterooms. They talked about some of the new decor and just the regular staterooms. They also announced these new 2-story royal suites.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible.
Forget it.
I also want to flag that Scott Sanders over at the DCL blog uncovered a little Easter egg. It looks like in the booking tool, I think it was, that there is a potentially, as yet, unrevealed, supersized stateroom on board the Disney Wish called a Tower Suite, which looked to be on deck 14. And so looking at the deck plans and the spaces that have not been announced, it feels like if it's a tower suite, the only space that has not been covered on the deck plan is in the false funnel, which has 2 magical experiences coming labels in it. And so
how
cannot even
crazy.
believe, if that is true, if Scott Sanders has uncovered this, unbelievable.
How crazy would that even be? I mean,
I can't even imagine what it would cost. I cannot even
imagine.
That,
forget it.
Well, it would have to be Concierge, right? Because you're talking about anything that's like suite level. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's going to be like ultra. It's going to be like
ultra.
Concierge.
It's like staying in the castle. It would be like staying in the castle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That would be like,
that'd be incredible.
A little much for me.
Let's come
down to earth, right?
Down to earth. What'd you just think of the regular stateroom decor, Adrian? I'll say the one disappointment for me was I didn't hear a lot about any sort of I would have loved to see some tech upgrades. My pro that somebody pointed out that I missed, they finally the TV is on the wall opposite the bed now.
Yes.
In renderings.
Thank God, right? I thought they were beautiful. I thought they weren't crazy IP crazy. I thought they were just very elegant and very pretty and warm. You know what I mean? They weren't like that cold look. It was very warm and inviting. And they say that I think they also had said that more rooms are going to be outside staterooms on this ship more than the others, with verandas.
Evident.
It was evident, and they're beautiful rooms. The rooms are gorgeous. The bathrooms.
Oh my God! Right?
Stunning. The bathrooms looked amazing. That 2-floor suite, I just don't even know what to say. All I keep thinking is, okay, so when I go and I have 5 kids, it would probably be more economical to stay in the two.
The rationalization begins.
The rationalization of that the 2-story suite. I'm like, well, if I got 3 staterooms, I mean, that would add up to be like that one. So I think I should stay in that.
It depends what staterooms. If you're talking inside staterooms, I'm still
thinking
I
wasn't talking
about. We have a friend of the show who said his wife saw the 2-story royal suite and said she would never leave the bathtub in the bathroom. And I said, well, that just sounds like a cruise within a cruise within a cruise to me.
It sounds amazing. Yeah.
All right.
No,
so
the staterooms look beautiful. They look amazing.
They're so beautiful.
Well, so outside of staterooms, we do have a viewer here who's asking for your thoughts, Adrian, on a bit of a divisive announcement, which was the amount of IP they've poured into this ship, including Star Wars. And
right, the hyperspace lounge.
Hyperspace lounge, the Star Wars lounge, what I'm calling the replacement for a Skyline, although on our podcast, I think one of the ho-hos said, well, we don't know yet. Maybe there will be another one. I don't think so.
No.
But
I think this is it.
But what do you think about the hyperspace lounge on board?
I think it's fantastic. I think that there should be an adult Star Wars something. I mean, all the stuff that the kids are getting on this ship, I'm not going to lie, the whole princess fairy tale thing, the Marvel with the dressing up and everything. I'm like, well, where's mine?
I know, right?
You know, where's mine? And I'm a Star Wars freak. So
Where's my
slide?
Where's my slide from Enchante back to my room? Because I don't think I can walk. Yeah.
I thought that was really great. I'm excited. my son who's married, he was like, are you kidding? That's going to be the best part of the ship at night. I was like, there you go.
Yeah. And it's right like outside of the theater area, right? So it's like
that's what it looked like. Yeah.
Yeah. So like right outside. So it would be nice, like after you go to the Walt Disney Theater for the evening show, and then you come out and you go right into Hyperspace Lounge for a drink, right? Like it seems like a kind of a perfect transition. One of the things that I think this is an improvement over the other ships is having that, where when the adults are walking out, particularly of the second show for the evening,
right.
That will be a place they might, sort of filter right into because it's right outside the theater, and it's right by the movie theaters, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it's perfectly located. I think it's a great theme. I think it will be fantastic. And I think the what is it? There's a Rose Cafe, right? The Rose. The Beauty and the Beast.
The I think it's just called the Rose. Yeah, it's
the
a
Rose.
Beauty and the Beast themed bar.
I thought that was beautiful evening bar as well. I thought that was particularly something I would enjoy too. Like you change it up at night. You go to one night, you go to one another night. I thought that was I liked it.
Well, yeah, I wonder. I think it's a replacement for Meridian.
But it might be like a champagne bar or something because it looks more like it looks. Yeah, location wise, it's kind of like Meridian, where you lead into the 2 adult only restaurants. However, it might be more. I feel like it's the theming would work better for like a champagne bar than like an old world,
Right, but they also kind of alluded, and I think not even alluded, but said, I think that you could see the fireworks from there.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
It's up. It's definitely up. Like you said, I think it's near the adult dining, maybe even,
I think it's when I think it leads into Apollo or into Enchante. I can't remember.
It was beautiful. I thought that was great.
Well, speaking of adult dining, Enchante, the new French offering from the 3 Michelin-starred chef, and
Chef Arnaud.
Palo the Steakhouse edition.
Yes.
What'd you think, Adrian, about that? There were some people who were like, don't mess around with my Palo.
I'm a carnivore. so there was no problem with the fact it was going to become a steakhouse. I had no problem with that at all. I think that they will have Palo signature dishes. I guarantee that. They wouldn't take it away, certain things. And I think it's going to be beautiful. I think a steakhouse is completely appropriate on there.
Yeah, I think they'll still have pasta dishes and stuff like that because it's still Palo, so it's still going to be. It's just going to have more steak, exactly.
Yeah, and I think what is it, Enchante, right? Oh, forget it.
I just want to know what the signature drink's going to be on. What's the Colette replacement?
We love the Colette.
And what did they say that one is based off of Cogsworth, right, from Beauty and the Beast? Or Lumiere.
Lumiere. Cogsworth is going to be in Palo.
In Palo. So I'm good with that. I'm good with all of what they're doing.
And what is it? Is it Tuscany in Italy, Sam? It's known
no,
for
it's Florence.
Florence. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's Tuscany, but Florence, Florentine steak is actually like a very, very famous. Florence and that region of Tuscany, are known for their meat as well as for pastas and all that stuff. So it's not far fetched to pair steakhouse and Italian. I think Americans maybe don't think of it as together, but traditional Italian food actually has quite a bit of that.
Well, we could talk. Perfect. We could talk adult dining all night, but let's head over to rotational dining, because that was also a fairly controversial announcement. No Animator's Palette, no restaurant called Animator's Palette. I think that we found Frozen restaurant, which is going to be like the Tianas or the Rapunzels that has been on board the Magic Class ships. I think we've got the Marvel Avengers Experience restaurant that is going to be, I suspect, the Animators kind of.
It's more interactive.
Yeah.
Right. And then we have 1923, a more, I would
that
say.
I'm very interested in that one.
Yeah. What'd you think, Adrian?
I thought the restaurant choices were outstanding. 1923 interested me the most, but that was adult dining. And actually, it's not adult dining, but it is just faded that way a little bit more. Where I think, the Arundel one and the Marvel one are fun and they're great, and it will be great to do because, like I said, the kids are getting theirs, but where's our fill of Marvel and fun stuff? I think that their choices were really spot on. The girls get one night almost, and the boys will get the Marvel, and I think that works out well. I think it's a good balance.
Yeah, or both, because there's a lot of boys out there who like Frozen. A lot of girls.
I agree, but I think that it just they did a good balance. It was a smart balance.
Yeah.
My only complaint is on since they're only doing the 3 and the 4 night itineraries. Like on a 3 night itinerary,
where do you pick it?
Who's going to go to Palo instead of going to one of these restaurants or Remy? Like, I guess there's people out there complaining about the Norwegian menu potentially at
so if I had to choose which one I would trade Palo for, it would probably be the Arendelle one. Yeah. I wouldn't want to miss Marvel, but that's because I'm a Marvel freak.
Yeah, same.
So I would want to do the Marvel, the 1923 in Palo.
I think it just means you have to do a back-to-back. That's what it means.
Or they're just going to have to find a way to expand the cruise.
Yeah,
we'll be okay.
No, I love it. I think what you do is you on your first time on the Wish, you're going to have to just do a brunch and not do. I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't want to, if I had just a 3-night cruise as my first cruise on the Wish, I want to experience all 3 of the restaurants. And so I'm probably not doing Apollo or an Enchanté dinner on that first cruise. I would opt for the brunches instead. And then maybe
that's a great option. That's a phenomenal option.
Yeah. And then maybe on my second, I would say, okay, well, I Arendelle was nice, but I can miss it. Right. I've seen it.
Then you can pick and choose too. You're right. 1,000%, because you're right. Because then you get the opportunity to say, well, this menu wasn't really suiting me as much as the other.
Right. I wonder, do you know this, Adrian? What do they do? Pirate night on a 3-night cruise?
They did. I've been on the 3-night cruise and they had pirate night.
See,
that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
I think that's a mistake. I hope you don't do that.
I think that pirate night might subside, especially amongst COVID. I'll be honest with you. I think that would be a very risky thing to do because of how many, I mean, I remember just being crunched on the decks for pirate night with all the people just squished.
Yeah.
I think it might not happen.
Unless they did it like 2 separate shows or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they could. But then what are you going to do with the fire? Then it's 2 separate fireworks because the fireworks are what draws everybody out too.
You're right. Well, and the late night fire, you need that in the dark. And
But the key difference too is you have now, because the only place where you got a show Tiana's and Rapunzel's was on a Magic class ship. I don't think they do traditionally have done the sailings with Pirate Night on them.
They do. They do have Pirate Night.
Yeah. Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was saying I feel like a 3-night, you should just not. On a 3-night, you should just not do a pirate night at all. And if you want to do it on a 4th night, I guess. I mean, I would skip the 4th night. And of course, that's when I would go eat Apollo or Enchanté because I'm not
I'm sorry. But the point I was trying to make was the Magic class ships, I don't think did 3 and 4 night Bahamian sailings.
Oh, they did. In the beginning, they did.
But before
now they don't. Now they don't.
But now they have the restaurants with a show on them as opposed to having a pirate night. So now that you've got this Wish ship doing 3 and 4 night sailings with a restaurant like Tiana's,
maybe I
fully agree that now pirate night should just fall away.
I think that they're not going to even have a choice with that, to be very honest with you. I don't foresee pirate night being around. Even when they go back, I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
Well,
but that's an opinion. That's an opinion, not a fact.
Yeah.
Well, Michael's opinion, our viewer Michael out there right now says, if only they could have drink packages like other cruises. I can't see Disney introducing drink packages from the family-friendly aesthetic.
Right. Although, to be fair, there are some things that Disney does that people don't think of as traditional drink packages, because they don't do a drink package, all you can drink, whatever, for the cruise. But they do beer packages for, a certain number of beers that you get for a slightly discounted price. They do the passport at the Skyline Lounge, which is a certain number of drinks for one price, again, a discounted price. So there are ways to get some discounts. You just have to it's just not the same as like
my favorite is the drink of the day. And
Right.
when you board the ship and you get the cup, the $15 cup that has the drink in it, and then you keep washing out that, and you go to the bars and you get the drink of the day, and they fill it up for like, what is it, $5, $8, something ridiculously inexpensive. Not too many people know you can also bring your own booze on the ship.
Yep.
You can
beer
bring beer and wine, Malibu rum. You could bring certain things. Just you have to check the guidelines of how much, but you are allowed to bring.
Yeah, I think the current guidelines restrict you to 2 bottles of wine per person over 21, 1 6-pack of beer per person. Each port it's allowed, but no hard alcohol. That will get confiscated at the port, and
they'll hold it
end of your cruise.
Right.
I mean, you're allowed to buy, like, people buy rum obviously on these cruises to bring home, but what happens is it gets held, and then
they take it from you.
Right. Yeah.
But we bring on, if it's 2 of us, we'll bring on 4 bottles of wine, and the thing that people forget is, when you get off in port, if you're out of wine, you can buy 2 more bottles and bring it on. It's
right, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but not everybody knows that you can bring beverages with you, and they're pretty fair about it. It's not like it's,
and the guidelines say you're supposed to drink it in your room, but
nobody
in practical reality, once you pour it in a wine glass, they don't know where you got it from. So just pour it in
you also bring your little, your foldable cooler that you kept, and you throw it in. I'm not talking like those white ones. I'm talking, the bags, like the Castaway Key ones that you buy when you get off the ship. Yep. You can, if you have that, and I pack that, you pack it with ice, you put your drinks in it, and you bring it onto the beach. It's not a big deal either.
Exactly.
Well, let's wrap up. We could talk about the Wish all night. Let's wrap this up with a rapid fire round here. I want favorite thing from the Wish announcement. Sam, we'll start with you.
Oh, favorite thing from the Wish announcement. Oh my goodness. I didn't know you were going to ask me this question, so I'm totally unprepared, but I'm going to wing it, and I'm going to go with, I'm going to have 2 because there's no rules in rapid fire. So I'm the one who usually does rapid fire, so I always say there's no rules. Okay. So the Aqua Mouse, I'm really excited about that. I love a water slide, but I love this idea of like a water coaster. I think that sounds phenomenal. So that's number 1. And then I think the other one is, I'm going to say the Marvel restaurant. I'm totally a Marvel nerd too, Adrian. And in fact, on a podcast called The Plus Platoon, we air Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we talk a lot about, we talk only about Disney Plus shows, and we talk a lot about the Marvel shows that have been going on. So I'm just a big Marvel fan. And so I'm really excited about the new Marvel.
I'd have to jump on that. My God, I didn't know you had that. I would do that.
Oh yeah, I'm a co-host. We have five of us, and Brian subs in for me occasionally as well. So it's really fun. I
will have to listen to that.
Yeah.
All right, Adrian, your top now 2 things from the Disney Wish announcement.
Sorry,
that's okay. Unexpected. Thank you. Okay, the Star Wars Lounge. I'm very excited. I'm not gonna lie. I'm excited about it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to take, because you already mentioned the mouse, the mouse water coaster. Yeah. I'm going to go crazy and say, believe it or not, the Grand Foyer.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Grand Hall.
The Grand Hall. Oh, it is so beautiful. And I love the idea that they're going to have mini shows throughout the day in the Grand Hall. I thought that, I like that idea. I think it's a great way to come in and just see different things. And through the day, there's more activity happening in that area. I think that's a great way to get people even spaced out, right, on the ship. I thought the Grand Hall was stunning. And don't get me wrong, I am looking forward to the shows as well. But I thought it was pretty. I loved it.
Nice. Brian, what about you? Top 2?
I've got a top 3.
Wait a minute. Then I should be able to go back. And so should Sam.
Here's my top 3: restaurants. So
Oh,
I am.
okay, all right.
I'm excited about all the great restaurants on board. I cannot wait to try them all, and we're gonna have to do a back to back because I want to try all 3 of the main dining,
Yeah.
and both of the signature dining, the adult dining restaurants, and all the lounges in between. But the restaurants are just, I thought all of them look amazing and fun in their own way.
And the
so I can't wait to try
lounges
that.
too, Hitter. I mean,
Ah.
it's going to be. I can't wait to see the other what we haven't seen. Right, like we've seen Hyperspace Lounge, we've seen the Rose, but we don't know what else. There's going to be other adult only spaces that I'm excited to see.
Yeah, because every time she was about to announce something else, the little fairy godmother came sprinkling by. I was like, oh, no. And I'm like, but yes.
Yeah. We want.
And they're like,
more.
no, we're not ready to tell you everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
damn.
They gotta give little breadcrumbs, right? Little by little.
It was, but you know what? It was a significant breadcrumb. I think they released a lot more than I actually thought they were going to.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
If you saw the announcements and you can't wait to get on the Wish, you can start booking if you're super platinum at 25 plus cruises. I think it was May 17th was the start of booking.
Yes.
So us lowly gold will have to wait an entire week before we even get a bite at the apple on those ships. So
I got a bigger problem than you. I fell one cruise short of being gold, and it was supposed to be in April. So last April. So
well.
Well,
I hope all of our wishes come true. I want to thank everyone out there for watching and listening this week to our news, or this month to our news and commentary show. We'll be back next month with Adrian. We love having her on to talk about news and commentary, and we're probably going to start doing this show live as we have. So we'll push this out to the podcast channel too, so those of you who can't join us live can see it. We'll play around with the time a little bit until we can find a time that folks can really join and talk with us. But for now, we'll just we'll say goodbye and good night, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.